From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's the Tool Time Podcast.
Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of the Tool Time Podcast. I'm Nadine and I'm the editor of Tech Shop.
And I'm Eric Garba, ASE Certified Master Automobile Technician.
What is up, Eric?
What's up, Nadine?
Good to be back in the studio.
Awesome to be here.
We've got an exciting conversation today. Joining us is John Jenkins, the president, founder, and CEO of OEM Tools /CAS. Are you excited?
I'm excited. We love Scan Tools.
Yes,
and this is
we
going to be
do.
awesome.
We're going to be discussing all things Scan Tools, OEM, and Aftermarket. So let's just dive right in.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
All right.
John, thank you so much again for joining us today. To get us started, can you give us some history on OEM Tools /CAS?
Sure, I'd be glad to. The company's official name is Connected Automotive Systems of New England, which doesn't fit in any fields on any form, so it was truncated down to just CAS. Although sometimes we're known as OEM Tools because we own the domain name of OEMtools.com. But officially, the company is CAS, and OEM Tools is our main website. We've been in continuous operation for about 29 years, and we employ 25 people full-time. And really, our only true focus is on scan tools and support of those same scan tools. We're also, because all the scan tools today, or most of the factory tools, are all laptop-based, we're also established as a Dell reseller and a Panasonic reseller. And right now, our installed base of customers, they own about 7,000 plus factory tools that we've deployed. And with those scan tools, there are subscriptions involved. And we literally track for the customers. We track over 20,000 subscriptions, so that when it's time to renew, we're calling the shop and whatnot. So that's really all we do is scan tools, and quite a bit of them, if you will.
That's awesome. Very cool. And as a technician, as you know, Nadine, I mean, scan tools, that's our life. We rely so heavily on scan tools. I mean, it's just that's what we need. And, John, there's a lot of scan tools, a lot of equipment there on your website. And can you tell us what are the advantages of an OEM-specific scan tool versus a multi-line scan tool?
With the OEM scan tools, especially in certain parts of the industry, I mean, the collision industry for sure, the insurance companies are all over them about factory tools. But if someone's using an OEM scan tool, servicing a car, the first thing that happens is if you have an OEM scan tool, you're absolutely guaranteed that you're going to have full car line coverage. You're not going to be missing models at all, which is a big issue. Someone brings a car into the bays and all of a sudden they figure their aftermarket scan tool doesn't cover it. It's like, now what do we do, right? We're stuck. The other thing that happens if you're using a factory scan tool is when you go to scan that car, you know that the scan tool is going to look at absolutely every controller on the car. With the aftermarket scan tools, you cross your fingers if the engineering group from that manufacturer of the aftermarket scan tool has developed the software completely. They may say, hey, yeah, we got coverage for the 2004 E150 or whatever it may be, but they're missing 11 or 4 or 6 modules that the scan tool's not picking up. And that becomes critical, especially if a shop is trying to do a pre-scan, or even more important, to figure out what's wrong, to triage the car, if you will. But then you also have to deal with, we're done with the car, let's do a post-scan to cover all the bases and make sure we're sending this guy out right. If I can't see all the modules, I don't know if I've addressed everything on the car. And by using a factory scan tool, you're absolutely guaranteed that you're going to see all the modules on the car. The other thing that happens is, even when you're scanning modules, aftermarket versus OEM, and we do carry some aftermarket scan tools for specific reasons or situations, but when you're on the OEM level with a scan tool, once you go in to scan the vehicle and you start looking for the PIDs, if you will, or the data stream for that control module, you know that the factory scan tool will show you all the data PIDs, and you should have no concerns about the data's being presented to you incorrectly. We've run into more than one occasions where something as simple as wheel speed sensors in the data stream of an aftermarket scan tool, oops, they reversed them. And they told us the left rear is the problem when really it's the right rear, but we've already invested 2 hours on the left rear trying to figure out why it's not working, only to find out the data PIDs got reversed and the manufacturer will fix it of the scan tool. But I've lost the time and the attention on that car because I've got data PIDs that weren't presented correctly or completely. Another thing with the OEM scan tools, if I can continue on, what we think are some of the benefits have to do with insurance compliance. More and more, certainly with ADAS systems on the vehicles today, the insurance companies are getting more and more involved with, if we're going to pay for an insurance claim on a car, especially when we get into the collision industry, they want to make sure that the scan tool that was used covered everything. Did you get all the control modules, and did we look at the whole car, and is the data correct? So now we've got the insurance industry looking at the automotive repair industry saying, I know you said you did a pre and a post scan, but what did you scan it with? And did we actually get everything there? And if you think of the earlier points of all the data PIDs and all the controllers, that's why you see insurance companies saying, we would prefer that you scan a car with an OEM scan tool because of the completeness of the nature. You know, when you scan a Ford with the Ford IDS and a VCM3 interface, you know what you're going to retrieve from that car is identical to what they're going to retrieve if you're in a franchise Ford dealership and they're doing the job. So now the aftermarket is ground level equal with the dealer level. Some of the other advantages of OEM scan tools has to do with repair procedures. A lot of times the OEM scan tool will either literally present a test plan or a process to follow to address a code, or it will give a link to say, here's where you want to go in the service manual to address the code you've just pulled up. And a lot of times the aftermarket scan tools, at times they've attempted to do that in the past, but they've never been truly successful. There's too much. So leave it up to the OEMs to do it, and they'll present you with a test plan or a process to follow or the guide to say, where do I go to figure out what do I do with this network code? How do I fix this car? I think the last two things I would say on the using an OEM tool is I would say that when you've got an OEM tool hooked up to a car, very often you may run into an incident where I've got to do module programming. Well, I've got the factory tool right here. I can do it. If I've got an aftermarket scan tool hooked up, I'm not going to program with an aftermarket scan tool. I'm going to have to go get a J2534 device. I'm going to have to go buy some passes or whatever I have to do, and then get that all hooked up. If I've got the factory tool hooked up, I know I can do the programming. I know it's going to work. And in some cases, a lot of the factory tools are introducing or have introduced what they call topology maps. Stellantis, if you will, or Chrysler, Dodge, whatever you want to call them today. But if I take that factory tool, which is called YTAC, and I plug that into a vehicle and bring up the topology map, I'm just going to see all the controllers on the car at once as a screenshot. I'm going to see them color-coded as to who's talking and who's not there. And I'm going to see who's got a code, and are any of those codes safety related, or are they condition symptom related? And it's like, boom, I've got that. Once I've turned it on and got it running, I've got it. And if I have an aftermarket scan tool, I don't have any of those guarantees that any of that stuff's going to be presented to me. So there is quite a bit of benefits to running a factory tool. And in some cases, we've seen this a lot in the collision industry now, where they do a lot of pre-scans and post-scans, and they'll use a third party to log in and do it for them. when we listen to them and see how much money they've spent paying third parties to pre-scan and post-scan and things like that, we go, my God, you could have bought 4, 5, 6, 7 factory tools and done it yourself. It would have been less money. You would make more money for the repair shop, charging out the service, and it would be more convenient. You don't have to schedule anything. You have your people right on site doing it themselves. Absolutely. So there's a lot of benefits to OEM tools, but a lot of people are unsure about what to do, how to buy it, where do I get it, what happens if it doesn't work right. But I think that to us, that's our thought process of the benefit of OEM scan tools.
That's awesome. That is great information, John.
Absolutely.
That is great. And I know I've ran across many of these problems John mentions here. You know, you're diagnosing a vehicle and you're looking at the service procedure. It tells you to do a certain thing and it's just not available on a multi-line scan tool. So I think it really comes down to having ultimately the right tool for the job can save you a lot of time.
Absolutely. No, that's very great intel. John, can you share some of the more popular OEM scan tools you guys offer currently?
Sure. We offer quite a few. We offer almost every factory tool. I would say that, when we look at an aftermarket shop, whether it's mechanical or collision, certainly with mechanical, I think probably the most popular one or the starter factory tool for a lot of shops is either the Ford tool or the GM tool. Those seem to be the ones that a shop will see a lot of those vehicles and I go, I could probably do this, and they step into it with Ford and GM. We're also seeing there's been a large increase in interest with the Hyundai Kia car lines too. As those cars, the reputation has continued to improve and the QC and all that sort of stuff. It's a popular car, and we're getting more and more requests for Hyundai Kia and Genesis, which would be the third car line of the Hyundai Kia Genesis factory. But there's 3 factory tools that we see a lot of shops buying from us, and in some cases you can actually combine them. You can say, I want to buy the Hyundai Kia combo kit, which means I need one interface device for either Hyundai or Kia, but I'll have 2 separate tablets, one with Hyundai software, one with Kia software on it. But Ford and GM, Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, and then certainly Chrysler. And then from there, it's all over the place. Honda, Nissan, it just keeps on going. But I would say those are probably the leading tools that we see the shops going into. And another way to put it is, it's almost like the big 6, if you will: GM, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, Nissan. Put those 6 together, and there's a big bulk of the scan tool business for us.
Fantastic. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
So, John, is there ever a situation that you would recommend a shop a value of having a multi-line scan tool in addition to specific OEM scan tools?
Yeah, there is. And actually we recommend certain times, we'll recommend an aftermarket scan tool. Let's say we get a shop that calls up and says, I really want to do Mercedes, or I want to do BMW. Okay, well, the Mercedes tool is going to cost you, they want to sell you a 4-year package, and we can deliver all this, but you're looking at $30,000 to get into it. Mm-hmm. And to a lot of shops, they go, whoa, wait. We may then come back to them and say, look, here's a tool that we've carried for 20 years. It's gone through migrations and evolutions and developments and all this. Okay. And this tool is very strong. It's the best tool we've ever found for doing Euro cars. So if you're going to try to get into BMWs or Mercedes or something like that, here's a tool that's going to cost you $4,500. And at that point, you go, great. Okay, why don't I try that first and see if I really need a $35,000 factory tool when I can get a tool that the company specializes in doing Mercedes. And then if you hit a vehicle that maybe you have to program and you can't program, well, there's a lot of services out there that someone can log in and program that vehicle for you, or you can call a mobile guy. But we literally, even the tools that we sell that are aftermarket, we can log into quite a few of them with the factory software to help a shop finish a job. So yeah, there are times when we would recommend that. And we've got 2 or 3 different aftermarket lines of tools that we handle specifically. We've got one line that says, okay, here's a interface device. What do you want to scan? Skidoos, jet skis, boats, motorcycles, heavy duty truck, off-highway equipment, construction equipment, the same interface, and we can take a look at all those different applications and just say, let's just buy the software for the tool that you're going to work on. So if you're a motorcycle shop, here's your interface, here's your cables, here's your software. Again, a lot easier than buying a whole bunch of OEM tools. One of the things we found out as we got into scan tools, we really started years ago with domestics, GM, Ford, Chrysler, things like that. And eventually we moved into also supplying heavy duty truck scanners. And we thought, this will be a piece of cake. We've been doing GM and Ford and Honda. We know everything. Well, with heavy duty truck, it's different. If someone says, hey, I'm working on 18 wheelers and I need the factory tool. Well, the factory tool for an 18-wheeler rig doesn't exist the way it does in the car industry. And what I mean by that is this. Here comes an 18-wheeler. I want to scan the whole truck and see what's going on. Okay, great. It's got a Detroit engine. Well, you'll need the Detroit DDL software to do that. Yeah, but it's got an Allison transmission. Oh, well, you'll need the Allison dock software to do that. Well, but the brakes are Bendix. Well, you're going to need the Bendix software to do that. So all of a sudden, I'm getting into 3 or 4 OEM software apps, put them all together, load them on a laptop, which we do. And now when it's time to work on the vehicle, where do you want to go? You have to go launch this or launch that or launch that. So in some cases, one of the tools we'll sell is an aftermarket tool that you can triage, if you will, the whole vehicle by plugging into the connector and launching a general purpose heavy duty truck scan tool that'll say, look at the whole vehicle for me and let's see where the problem is. It's in the transmission. It's not in the engine. So don't worry about launch in Detroit. We're going to go look at the transmission. And then at that point, if the shop says, okay, well, that works great for me. I can triage a vehicle, but I still want to do some advanced functions, like I want to recode the injectors on a diesel engine. All right, fine. That's where you could then buy, in this conversation, the Detroit software, loaded on the same laptop, use the same interface, and now you've got Detroit factory software, but you can triage a whole vehicle with a general purpose to get into where you need to go. So there are times when we would come in and say, yeah, I'm going to recommend a aftermarket scan tool first, and then let the shop owner decide what works for them. So whether it's aftermarket or OEM, we'll support them. But again, we look at this as, you almost act like a guide and saying, tell me what you want to do and we'll tell you the best way to do it.
Presented from the Ishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
That's awesome. That's great information.
Very nice.
It's really great to know that, technicians have the support of,
absolutely,
a company like this that can kind of help them decide what they need. And it sounds like a lot of it just comes down to the volume of any particular make in that situation.
Absolutely. Now, John, to get more specifics into the features of the products, do many of the OEM scan tools work with popular shop management systems for reports and repair documentation?
Let me answer that by first saying, keep in mind, these are the factory tools. Mm-hmm. So Ford, if I use Ford or GM, they're not necessarily that interested in making their factory dealer software work with an aftermarket business management system. So generally speaking, to my knowledge, there's no OEM applications that, if you will, integrate with a repair shop software program, if you will. However, every OEM scan tool does provide pre and post scan reporting. So I can take any factory tool, and again, keep in mind, what do the dealers want? Pre-scan it, post-scan it, right? So if I want to go in and pre-scan or post-scan it, we can do that with the factory software, and all of the OEM apps then will present a report that the technician can use. Send it to a printer, turn it into a PDF file, email it to a third party, attach it into your own history in the whatever your management system is, drop it into the customer's folder. So the reporting is there, but a large-scale integration doesn't exist. because as I say, BMW isn't interested in making their software, as an example, work with CCC. They don't care. They're developing their software for the dealer franchise.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Something else, John. Now, if you have an aftermarket scan tool, for example, I know a common problem is getting access through the security gateway. Can you talk a little bit about that and services such as auto-auth that you must register an aftermarket scan tool to get access? That versus an OEM scan tool and what that'll do for you.
Certainly, we're involved with auto-auth. We actually have our own auto-auth CAS shop, and simply we have it because we've got a bunch of people that they're sales guys for us, but I call them techno freaks. So they've got a number of aftermarket scan tools. They're walking into shops doing training or demonstration. And unless you have those tools registered and you have your business registered with AutoAuth, you're not going to be able to get through a secure gateway module on an FCA vehicle. So you've got to have that. So the aftermarket tools that we sell, especially the ones that we sell for domestics and things like that, they're all registered. They're all registerable with the AutoAuth site. And the AutoAuth site is really designed as almost a security measure to say, yeah, we see somebody's going to go in our car. Do we recognize that tool? And do we recognize that aftermarket shop using that tool? And if you registered your shop and you registered your tool and you register your technicians, then yeah, you're going to plug your scan tool into the car. It's going to see secure gateway module, and what happens? You got to be on the internet. It's going to go up and send a message up to the, if you will, the AutoAuth server, which is going to verify I recognize that tool because it's got coding in it to recognize it. I recognize the user of the tool. Here comes a certificate back down to the scan tool to say, yep, we trust this guy. The certificate is then handed over to the secure gateway module. The module says, oh, it's a good guy. Let him in, and boom, they're in. So awesome. That's really the process for AutoAuth. And right now they've got there's certain car lines you need it for. Certainly the Chrysler stuff. Nissan certainly came on board recently. With the factory tools, you don't need any of that. They don't ask. So aftermarket scan tools, we want to know who you are. Factory tools, they don't ask. They just let you in because they see a factory tool.
Another huge benefit to a factory tool, and I believe John mentioned that before already, but huge benefit to an OEM tool. But great to know that you have that access with an aftermarket scan tool.
Definitely. Yeah. Now, John, your CSS website is very robust. Are shops and technicians able to renew and maintain their subscriptions on that website? Or if you want to share, are there any additional features of the website that can be beneficial to technicians to use?
They really can't renew. And really, the site is not set up to be a site where you can go and buy a bunch of factory tools. We almost discourage people from doing that. Our policy when we sell a scan tool is it's really clear. We're going to talk to you about what you want to do. We're going to understand what are you trying to do, and let's make sure that your expectations are reasonable. We'll have somebody that'll say, hey, I'm going to buy the GM tool because I tune GMs and I'm going to really set them up. Well, you can't take a factory tool and detune a car, if you will. They're not designed to do that. And our policy is, you buy any scan tool from us, you have 30 days. We don't care what the reason is. Just say, I want my money back, and you can have it back. We don't care if the reason is your wife left you and you're closing the shop. We don't care. Send it back. You can have your money back. But then again, you'll have people that'll go in and they want to buy a scan tool and they think they're going to be able to do something that they can't do with the factory tool. And now it gets a little bit more complex for us. We'll refund the money, but we've now got a factory tool with a subscription running, and we can't turn that subscription off. In a sense, somebody lit the subscription cigarette, and whether you smoke it or not, it's going to burn down. So the site is not set up to go in and say, go ahead and buy 4 factory tools. The site is set up to educate and then call us, and then we'll help you decide what you need to do. And that's the tool purchasing standpoint. But then we also talk about the subscriptions and whatnot. With us, a significant portion of our business has to do with subscriptions. I think I mentioned early on in the broadcast that we track well over 20,000 subscriptions right now. And the reason we do that is, first of all, we just look at how a shop owner runs a shop and what can we do in the scan tool end of it to make life easier. One of the things is just track the tools so they don't shut down. So you don't open up on a Monday morning, somebody pulls a car in, they go to scan a Honda and say, I can't scan this. Why? Because our software is expired. Well, what the heck is going on? So we'll track all the subscriptions for them. And really what happens, it's not unusual at all for a shop, whether it's a repair shop or certainly collision shops, but a repair shop to own multiple scan tools, multiple factory tools. And those subscription periods don't coincide with one another. Toyota doesn't care when your Ford shuts down, and GM doesn't care about any of them. They shut down when they're going to shut down. So we will actually talk to a shop and say, hey, let's use Ford, for example. Your Ford's coming up, but you got Toyota and GM coming up sometime in the next year. So we'll go to the shop and say, here's the 3 subscriptions you need. We know when they're going to expire. Let's just put one order together. And then as they come up, we'll track them. And every week we bring up the list of who to renew. And we'll go in and renew the subscriptions and call the shop or send them a code or do whatever you have to do to get them going. And it sort of takes care of the whole issue of tracking subscriptions so that they're not shut down. And it seems to work for us. And like I say, I don't know what the total number is anymore, but we stopped counting at 20,000 and said, that's enough. That's what we do. Let's just keep doing it. So can you renew on the website? Nope. Can you buy on the website? Very limited, but you can buy some stuff. But in our book, we'd rather have you talk to one of our folks, tell us what you want to do, and we'll recommend the best solution or sometimes alternative solutions. We get a lot of people calling in saying, or emailing us through the site saying, I'd like to get GM. What will it cost to keep it running? And can I program with it? And what does that involve and all that? And, you could write a book and put it on the website, but a lot of times the spoken word is so much more convenient and you can get the nuances of what somebody's trying to do. And it builds a relationship because once that person has, in a sense, purchased the tool, well, he's also now assigned one of our sales guys, our techno freaks, if you will. That's his contact going forward. That's the guy that's going to train him. That's the guy that you have his cell phone number you're going to call if there's a question. And I just think that has worked better for us. And by watching the amount of renewal business we get, I think it's working better for the customers too. And our surveys that come back every week generally are outstanding, just outstanding. So we think we're doing the right thing.
Oh, absolutely. That's awesome. Great to know.
Definitely.
It's great that technicians have this connection, someplace they can go when they're technicians or shops, when they need to purchase a scan tool, that can be kind of a pretty huge undertaking, a lot to understand, a lot to look at. So it's great that they have this connection.
Definitely.
It's fantastic. John, is there anything else you can think of that we haven't touched base on here that you can share with our viewers about what you do and anything that can help them in their scan tool purchases?
You have to understand you're talking to the founder of the company, so I could talk for 2 days if you want to.
What are you doing, Nadine? You got time?
How much tape you got in that machine that you're recording this? You know what I would say? I would point out a couple things, if you don't mind. One of the things has to do with repairing factory tools. Anything that we sell, almost anything we sell, a shop could go online, search it, and buy it online, and then get it shipped in, load it up, make it work, and all that. But then you run into the training issue, but you also run into things break. And generally speaking, if you're building your business around factory tools and a factory tool goes down, now you got to figure a factory tool. First of all, you've got a laptop that it's running on, so I can have laptop issues, right? somebody broke the USB port on the laptop and now it won't read, but I don't know how to troubleshoot a USB port on the motherboard. I've got an interface device that's the interface between the car and the laptop. That can break. I've got the cabling that connects car to interface and interface to laptop, or maybe I'm going wirelessly. So now I've got Bluetooth issues, or I'm connecting up to the internet. I'm going over to a server and this and that. So when this stuff breaks, it becomes a high level of frustration for the shop. I mean, think about the automotive repair industry. We are filled with people that pride themselves in fixing things that break, right? Well, when your scan tool breaks and you can't fix it because you don't understand that you just downloaded the Java update that just screwed up your BIOS or whatever it did, very frustrating. Or honestly, the VCM for the Ford or whatever it is literally broke. Well, if it did, and you go to the manufacturer, they're going to say, well, you may have a broken tool there. You can send it in and we'll troubleshoot it. Or you might have a bad cable. Well, what do? Well, buy a cable and plug it in. Well, that didn't fix it. Well, I don't want the cable back, but it drags on and on and on. So our support method there is very simply, if we've got a factory tool that's under support from us, if you call into the tech support group and they determine your laptop has an issue, okay, we're going to log in remotely and fix it if we can. And if we can't, we're going to ship you a loaner laptop and transfer your factory tool over to the loaner. Bring your laptop in here. We'll fix it, send it back to you, transfer it back. So you're going to be down for a couple of days. And you're not trying to troubleshoot IT problems, VCM problems, DLC problems, and all that sort of stuff. We'll just take care of it for the shop, and they're up in days instead of, I bought a cable, I got it a week later, that didn't fix it. What do we do next? Call back. Most of the OEMs want to provide support through maybe an email that I'm going to text somebody or send an email to somebody, and then we're back and forth and all that. And I'm going to tell you right now, when a guy's got a problem with a factory tool, if we can call in, log in, look at what he's doing right there and help him out, it's so much more convenient for the shop owner. And it's convenient for us too, which is why every laptop we've ever deployed, we put remote hosting software on it so that we can in fact do that. So, part of ownership of OEM tools is not just buying it, learning how to use it, but you have to and keeping the subscriptions running, but you have to understand things break. And when they do, what do I do? So that's one of the things that we like to talk about. I think that really sets us apart from, the guy that's on the internet trying to buy tools.
That's
I
awesome.
love it.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. That's great to know.
Absolutely. I think the relationships that you guys are building with these shops is incredibly important, and
absolutely.
it definitely puts you on another level for sure. John, thank you so much. The information that you shared today was incredibly helpful, and I feel like we learned a lot today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting my next scan tool now. Somebody I can call.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just want to go to OEMtools.com and start there, right? Yeah.
John, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation, and thanks for the opportunity to just talk about what we do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Wow, Eric, that was a lot of helpful information. What do you think?
That was fantastic. I learned a lot about OEM scan tools, the advantages, and just great information about making the decision from OEM to a aftermarket or multi-line scan tool. Just great stuff.
Absolutely. And what really stood out for me was the relationships that they're building with shops. Just simply saying, give us a call and we'll help you figure out the solutions that you need. So I thought that was really excellent.
Oh, absolutely. And it's such a big decision when a shop or a technician needs to buy a scan tool, and there's knowing that there's somebody who can help you along with that decision. It's just fantastic.
Absolutely. Eric, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to watch the next episode, and we'll see you again soon.